Hello, greetings and welcome. My name is Clive Branson, no relationship to Richard, although I use this opening strategy as an anchor, a subconscious hook. But more about that later in the book. To create a rapport, I would like to introduce you to me. I am a retired direct salesman who after many successful years have decided to call it a day, my final close so to speak. But before the final curtain comes down on my I meant sales career, I would like to pass on all my many years of selling experiences to you, the budding salesperson, so that unlike me who have faltered and floundered along the way in my early years, you may gain the knowledge of becoming a super salesperson and closer in a much quicker time. As mentioned on the sales cover page, selling is an art and a science, and a good salesperson is worth his or her weight in gold, and companies will pay top salaries to their top salespeople. I have been privileged to meet and learn from some of the great salespeople in my past. Thanks to them, they have given me the confidence and the ability to carry on, when at times I thought of giving up. Perhaps that is the first lesson to learn in becoming a top salesperson in your chosen occupation, i.e. never ever give up, even when times look bleak and there seems no light at the end of the tunnel. Believe me when I tell you that I have been there, when times have been hard, blaming the leads, the appointments, the manager, the canvasser, the economy, the government, and even the prospect. With persistency and a strong constitution, I have rose above setbacks, disappointments, and despair to arrive at the top of my chosen vocation, and with an accumulation of sales awards and high-volume sales during my career, I can categorically say with a hand on my heart that you too can become a super salesperson and become top of your profession after reading and understanding my tried and tested sales philosophies, using your own personality, adapting my philosophy while teaching you effective, valuable insights, skills, and techniques. My sales Bible will reveal the secrets and the science for the budding salesperson to become a superstar in a very short time. Salespeople are in the highest paid profession in this world today. It takes someone special to be a successful salesperson, hence the rewards are great. With over 40 years experience, and now retired, I will teach you how to close a sale with an average closure rate of 1 in 2. Learn the techniques used by top salespeople, a soft sell, relationship building approach that's perfect for every sales occasion and marketplace that anyone can learn to use. Trust me, I'm a salesman. My sales history: 1966 to 1969, retail sales. 1969 to 1970, Wesleyan and General, sales agent, canvasser, top producer, highest volume of new business in company. 1970 to 1971, Wesleyan and General, promotion to area manager, training in cold call sales. 1972 to 1973, Royal Life Insurance, sales agent, new agent, top achiever of the year award. 1974 to 1975, Royal Life Insurance, sales agent, £1 million club new business. 1976 to 1980, Stay Bright Windows, sales agent, #1 producer 4 years running. Winner of Dusty Bin Award, holiday top finance producer, £6 commissions on one sale only. 1981 to 1982, Protector Ltd house coating, sales agent, best newcomer award. 1983 to 1986, Cold Seal Windows, direct sales agent, #1 finance sales agent, holiday South Africa award, recognized as top producer in the company nationally. 1987 to 1988, vacation traveled the world, set up IASH Hypnosis/Hypnotherapy Institute. 1989-1990, Aiken Fishing Tackle, sales representative, top producer. 1990 to 1992, Euratel Telephone Systems, sales representative, gold pin award, £100 sales in 1 month. 1993 to 1995, Craftmatic Beds, direct sales agent, record amount of beds, 7, sold in 1 week. 1996 to 1997, Lombard Adjustable Beds, direct sales, top producer in company. 1998 to 2001, FUT.net Internet Company, direct sales/manager, website sales. 2001 to 2002, FireSafe New Zealand, set up sales company for client, managing 30 sales reps. 2003 to 2005, Multi-Furnish, direct sales agent, produced record £170 new business in 2 months. 2006 to 2008, AquaShield Roof Coating, direct sales agent, top producer in company, closing 14 Presentation straight promoted to sales manager and trainer. 2009 to 2010 Safe Style Windows, direct sales agent. 100K Club 3 months running £500,000 of sales within 12 weeks. 2011 present semi-retired training new sales agents MLM associations with Herbalife, John Pierre Sands, Miracle Made, Betterware, Future World and many more network marketing companies. The history of selling. Salesmanship, perhaps one of the oldest professions in our human history. In biblical times, it is documented that selling goods in the marketplace was common and widespread, and possibly the greatest salesman of all mankind was born to a humble carpenter in a lonely place. He recruited 12 men to help him sell his story. He had his knockbacks, his defeats, and many doors were closed in face. In fact, he lost his life selling his story. Yet over 2,000 years have passed in time, and his story goes on and on. He sold his story to a following, which grew so strong, that people all over the world from different walks of life now believe his story. Yes, I believe that Jesus of Nazareth was surely a great salesman. Even his friend Judas sold his whereabouts for 30 pieces of silver to the Romans. Salesmanship as we know it today has its roots deep in the histories of mankind. Down through the ages it has been the salesman who has carried the products and innovations of various civilizations to potential customers throughout the world. Actually, the art of persuasion is as old as history itself. History records the adventures of traveling salesmen called peddlers and chapmen in the year 2500 BC. They followed the caravan routes across the desert wastelands and traveled by ship to bring such products as spices, ointments, silver and slaves from Mesopotamia to other chief cities in Asia. These early salesmen, in addition to the dangers braved from irate customers, faced the danger of highwaymen, attacks by wild animals and primitive tribes. It is recorded that in the 13th and 14th centuries English merchant guilds required their members to carry bows and arrows and band together in groups to discourage attacks. Historically, bartering goods between the populace was the norm preceding the professional salesman. The first clear examples of salesmen, in the sense we think of today, would be in the early 19th century across much of Europe. At this time, peddler men and women would travel around different towns and areas selling their goods. These goods could be anything from fresh fruit and vegetables to leather goods and woven baskets. This is quite possibly the earliest example of cold calling and door-to-door sales. These traveling salespeople were often reliant upon their ability to sell a large quantity of items and a large variety of goods in order to make enough money for food and shelter. Haggling/bartering was commonplace in this type of sales, and often people would exchange their goods rather than pay money. The business of sales has been a vital part of the economy since the earliest years. Throughout the 18th and 19th centuries, salesmen accounted for a large part of commerce in both the countryside and in growing cities. Many spent their lives on the road selling goods, encyclopedias, sewing machines, pots and pans and more. Even self-made billionaire John D. Rockefeller's father was a pitchman, selling medical cures from town to town. The life of a traveling salesman in the mid to late 19th century was far from romantic. Transportation generally consisted of a day coach on a train, and then a horse and buggy provided by the local livery stable for local travel. Many salesmen were away from their homes and loved ones for months on end. It was a rough and often hazardous way to make a living, as often fatal accidents occurred frequently. By the early 20th century, the traveling salesman had become a familiar and sometimes comical image. Salesmen were considered slick and untrustworthy, peddling cure-all elixirs and overpriced Bibles. Yet at the turn of the century, the direct selling business expanded and became more organized. Small independent companies expanded and many commodities were peddled from door to door, things such as cleaning items including brushes and mops, and a few companies went national with salesmen in every region of the country trading products to every householder, targeting mostly women. The traveling salesman went from town to town, knocking on doors carrying cases filled with products, and those buying the brushes and cleaners were often women. The first examples of a more organized and recognized sales movement was during the late 19th century. During the early 20th, there were many hundreds of large companies which developed and focused highly on selling goods. This developed owing to a number of factors, including a growing economy, the introduction of credit as well as a new set of laws to protect buyers and sellers in the marketplace. The economic situation and newly imposed laws prompted this development, and the huge growth of such companies continued through the coming years. The peddler. Today's salesman. Moving on to more recent developments, we have the actual recognition of the salesperson as a very intricate and specific role in the marketplace. Selling has changed dramatically in the last few decades, whereby it is now recognized by all major companies that presenting and closing a sale have become an art and a science by itself. Today's salesperson combines physiology and the latest scientific advancements, including NLP and body language. Unfortunately, there are still many salespeople who continue to employ one-dimensional practices that no longer work. In today's modern world, a good salesperson is worth their weight in gold, and companies will pay top salaries to their top sellers. The ever-expanding science behind salesmanship have truly broken new grounds. There are many books and courses in sales at present, and big companies will send their employees on such sales courses to ensure they maximize their ability. My Sales Bible combines the science of selling and persuasion, bringing sales and closing into the 21st century with carefully researched tactics and strategies that work in the real world of modern sales. My Direct Sales Bible is perhaps the catalyst for you, the reader, to also become a super salesman, endeavoring to teach you the new science of selling, while still holding on to some of the traditional methods too. Introduction. How did I get into the greatest profession on earth, selling, I ask myself. Perhaps I just slotted into a groove, or perhaps I was led, or did I just fall into this dismal life of self-torture? Or was it something else? When as a young man just leaving college, I applied for a job in a local retail shop, not for the money or the distinction of becoming a salesperson, but for the interest I had about the products for sale. Tropical fish. This was a hobby and an interest that would keep me engrossed to a subject that was adhering. It was my good fortune to meet and be taught the rudiments of selling by an old Jewish master. Leo Abs was his name, a descendant from a long line of Jewish settlement folk, now prevalent in the city that I was born. His family being part of a firm of solicitors and property owners, and using business acumen and what I now know as sales ability and subconscious manipulation. The Abs family became possibly one of the largest money-making families in my hometown during the 1960 years. Leo, this clever old fox, would teach me the body language of selling and the cold sell. Watching him at work was so exhilarating. Often he would turn a casual window shopper into a big $100 plus sale, and in those days of high unemployment and less money to go round, he would amaze not only me but also the staff of his sales ability. Using psychology, he would set the scene. Talking in a casual discussion, he would paint the picture, point out the benefits, create the desire, and close the sale. He was truly amazing. It was no wonder that he amassed a fortune before his retirement. After my 4 long years apprenticeship in retail selling, I decided to take the giant step forward and into the field of direct sales, joining a national insurance company and starting from the ground floor as a collector and sales agent. Because of my experience in retail sales and having learnt the rudiments of selling, I endeavored to reach the top within this direct sales company, and with some effort, throughout the space of 12 months I reached my target and goal of becoming recognized as a good salesman, moreover with promotion. Becoming an area sales manager was my reward. At that time I thought I was a good salesman and was often praised by those above me and head office, with awards such as Salesman of the Month and Top Producer of the Year. Soon I was headhunted by other insurance companies, offering higher salaries and commission, of which I accordingly accepted. However, as time went on, I was never really content, as I could not close on every single prospect. For some reason I could not explain, some individuals were not always on the same wavelength as me, no matter how hard I tried to befriend the prospect. Endeavoring to improve my lot, I took up the study of psychology, especially the subject about the conscious and subconscious mind. During these studies, it led me into the field of hypnosis, and I thought if I could hypnotize my prospects I would close on every sale. However, in reality it did not work, as hypnosis is a state of mind brought on by a person's own self-belief, consequently making it impossible to impose your will upon another without their full cooperation. It did, however, open other doors to human understanding and psychology, which are now scientific knowledge, and the premise of how I became the top salesperson within each of the companies I worked. By learning how the human brain cognitive system is functioning and why everyone has an individual point of view are the foundations and the secret of becoming a top salesperson, suffice to say the keys to your success. Trust me. Obsession. My obsession to learn more about psychology came when I tried so hard to close every sale. I just couldn't understand why I could not close on every sale presentation. Often I would wonder why my prospect didn't place an order. Was it something I said or something I had done? To help me in my quest, I created an obsessive driving force within me to study even more psychological and motivating books, listening to audio tapes and watching sales videos by experts in the field. Within time, it all came together like a jigsaw puzzle. Everything gelled and started to make complete sense. Being an analytical person, I just had to visit and speak to some of the authors of the books that I studied, just to make sense in my own mind, to analyze the workings of the mind and the psychology of human nature. I became a student in the art of hypnosis and hypnotherapy. For many years I studied several people's occults, religion, and their psychic beliefs. I learned the secrets of fortune telling. I also studied phrenology, physiognomy, and I learned nonverbal communication through body language and NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. Using my newfound information and piecing it all together led me to a new and full understanding of the human mind and its conditioning, helping me achieve even greater sales and closing. To further experiment and exercise my thesis on psychological selling and persuasion, I joined a national direct sales company and within 3 months became one of the top salesperson in the company, in fact winning the new Salesman of the Year award and a tropical holiday. Through my studies I have also found some amazing facts about mind conditioning. Our brains are like a sponge. We absorb stimuli and thousands of facts through our subconscious and conscious minds every second of the day. Our brain is formed in such a way that we are open to suggestion, for without this special mechanism, we would not grow and expand mentally. Our minds are being programmed all the time. In fact, from the day we were born, we have been programmed by one person or another. First our parents or guardians, to our teachers and the authorities, our friends and enemies, and for good measure, the government, the news media, television, and radio, advertising companies. In fact, almost everywhere we look, every time we listen, we are bombarded with mind-changing suggestions, whether we like them or not. Throughout my sales Bible, I want you to be aware of this single fact, that because of the structure of the brain and its makeup, we are all open to suggestion in one form or another. Sales winners are always prepared to learn. This statement is true today, as was written many years ago. In fact, all winning attributes of life can be said of this. Through positive mental attitude and self-imagery, I have personally arose above setbacks and disappointments to become the top salesperson in all the companies I have worked. When you have finished reading my sales Bible and put to practice the scientific sales techniques within, I am confident that you too can become a top salesperson. And I will see you, yes I mean you, at the top. My selling philosophy. Selling is the most important profession in the world. You have to be proud of this fact. Without a salesperson, nothing on this planet would move. There would be no incentive to do anything. The economies of the world and all governments would collapse, and there would be anarchy in the streets. As the monetary system would come to a close, we would all end up fighting, possibly reverting back to caveman mentality. Civilizations would collapse, and it would be the end of the world, as we know it. Okay. Perhaps I was going over the top in my statement above, yet painting a picture in the prospect's mind is very important to your prospective customer. Think about this for a moment, just look around you. Everything you see and touch had to be sold by a salesperson. An inventor could formulate and invent the best possible product in the world, or they could create the best product since sliced bread. But without a salesperson to sell the product or the idea, then all the inventors' or manufacturers' efforts would have been a complete waste of time and money. A sales profession can sometimes be an unhappy one. Sometimes it may appear to be the worst profession in the world. It can seem to be downright degrading, humiliating, and soul-destroying. Yet it can be the most rewarding and satisfying. It can also be the best paid job in the world and in some cases one of the highest paid professions in the world today, accounting for countless millionaires worldwide. The facts, statistics show that 80% of salespeople fail. For one reason alone, they do not relate effectively with other people. Good communication and positive influencing skills are vital for success in today's changing and increasingly complex sales world. If you improve your communication and influence skills, you will improve your effectiveness and get noticeable results. In this invaluable book, you will see the underlying psychological principles behind communication and influencing. You will also gain the skills and techniques to be able to apply those principles in everyday situations. The material in this working manual really works. I have the knowledge and the testimonials to back me up, and by teaching you the high-level skills to communicate and influence with anyone at any level. As you have possibly bought or acquired my Sales Bible, therefore this is my objective for you. In short, this Sales Bible will give you effective, straightforward, proven ways to increase the positive impact you have on anyone and everyone you work with, accumulating with an average of closing rate of 1 in 2 presentations. The nuts and bolts of a sale, as briefly mentioned in the preface. I believe a top salesperson is conceivably a professional actor, not the stage or screen variety, but a true performer in the real world, just as Shakespeare once quoted, "All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts." A sale is the act of selling a product or service in return for money or other compensation. Signaling completion of the prospective stage, it is the beginning of an engagement between customer and vendor or the extension of that engagement. Salesmanship is the practice of investigating and satisfying customer needs through a process that is efficient, fair, sincere, mutually beneficial, and aimed at long-term productive relationship. There are 3 types of selling modules. 1. Retail sales, in general shop or market stall environments, selling to groups or individuals, mostly order takers. 2. Cold calling sales, these are what called chancing and speculator opportunist sales, usually door-to-door, some call number selling, or sales canvassing. 3. Direct sales, one-to-one selling, usually on a pre-arranged appointment, set up by canvassing or advertising inquiry. Although faceless sales are becoming more popular these days, such as phone, internet, leaflet, pamphlet, and brochure sales, nevertheless this manual will be focusing on the one-to-one selling module, direct sales module, hence the forwarding named Manual, calling it my Salesman Bible. By having studied and practiced direct sales one-to-one selling psychology for over 40 years, I am going to reveal sales techniques to you that have never been dared to put into print before. Disclosure by the sales profession will not begin to teach or reveal some of the secrets that I am prepared to reveal within this manual. I like to call this the Selling Bible, so that you can revert back to time and again. Although some may say that this manual is perhaps too controversial, yet in the right context, this, like many other motivational books, are only to help my fellow man who perhaps have been longing to ascend, like the phoenix from the ashes of failure and depravity. With countless years of trail and tribulations and studies, with an accumulation of diplomas and sales awards, combined with first-hand experiences, I have made this book into an easy-to-read information manual on working sales psychology, gleaned mainly from the studies of psychological and subconscious behavior, body language, hypnosis and hypnotherapy teaching, sales and closing techniques, and human social habits. Having the inner knowledge and the ability to persuade other human beings into responding to your whim is perhaps one of the greatest gifts a person could empower. All the tactics and strategies shown to you in this book are factual procedures and used often by all major direct sales companies, eluding the general public in these dealings who are not aware of these stratagem used. Therefore, asking you, the reader, to keep the contents clandestine, as the general public would be shocked to such dealings. Have you the commitment and the heart to follow through with what expounds before you within this sales manual, and become a great salesperson and persuader, having all that you desire in life? I surely hope so. For within this lifetime work salesmanship manual, you will discover the workings of the unconscious mind, how to manipulate to your advantage below the conscious level of awareness. You will understand the basic psychology of human thinking, as well as your own thought process, perhaps releasing the arbitrary thinking of your own limitations. The foundations of the subconscious mind. As a young budding salesman, I first became aware and interested in the subject of psychology from an early age, when my grandfather used to tell me stories of a great friend of his. Sia was his name. I recall how he would use psychology upon unsuspected people, and how he was a great salesman and could sell sand to an Arab, and how he would hypnotize people, especially upon traveling the trains and underground of London. You see, the thoughts of my mind were already being programmed for the future. As I grew older, I seemed to be attracted into a sales future. As if being led into a groove, I became a salesman. Was this planned, or was my mind conditioned? As mentioned in earlier pages, we are all constantly being programmed throughout our daily life. Just analyze this for a moment. Why do we think in a certain way? Why do we hold certain beliefs? How do we come to a certain conclusion? Why do we mix with certain types of people? Why do we wear a type of clothing? Why do we eat what we do? Why do we buy a certain product? And why do we have many different traits? The answer: subconscious mind-changing suggestion. Planted by someone or something in our life experiences up to the present time, linking to our experiences through our NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, belief system. The foundation of the subconscious. At this stage, I am going to introduce to you the foundation thesis of this manual, and the psychology of the human mind, and in particular the subconscious belief system. The brain is divided into two parts. Half of the brain controls an opposite side of the body, whilst the other side of the brain controls the other half of your body. If you are right-handed, 85% approximate of the population, then the left hemisphere of your brain controls the right side of your body. Opposite if you are left-handed. Your left hemisphere part of the brain controls all conscious thought and logical thinking, such as reason, language, mathematics, reading, writing, linear analysis. Your right side of the brain controls all your creativity, your unconscious and subconscious, imagination, rhythm, visualization, images, memory, body functions. Joining together the two parts of the brain are direct neural connectors called corpus callosum. This is how transmission of thoughts from your right side of the brain to your left are transmitted. Your brain also has a stem at its base that in turn is connected to your spinal cord and nervous system. The right part of the brain is where your subconscious is mainly situated. It has control over the autonomic nervous system, i.e. involuntary glands, muscles, organs, etc. The subconscious is a non-thinking service mechanism, likened to a computer's programming chip. It cannot reason, analyze, or argue with you, it only serves you. We all have a subconscious. It is the powerhouse of everything we do, it is the seat of our imagination, it is intermingled to our past experiences and memory. It controls our emotions, our feelings, it succumbs to fears, it rejoices in our ecstasy. It can secrete into the brain and body tissue over 2,000 chemicals, it never sleeps, it controls all non-thinking processes such as heartbeat, breathing, blood pressure, and so on. Let me give you a small sample of its power. Can you remember what you were doing 10 years ago on a Tuesday morning at 11 a.m.? I very much doubt whether you can, but logged somewhere in your memory banks of your brain are every memory of every minute of your life experiences. Memories. Memories you can probably remember are sudden implants, such as when you achieved something special, or an accident, or something horrific, certainly something that kept an electric neuron still firing. From your subconscious to the conscious parts of the brain. As a qualified hypnotist, by introducing trance, I could regress you back, step by step, to the exact time and place in your life that you cannot consciously remember. Tapping into the subconscious memory, you could tell me everything that you were doing at that precise moment in time. Even what you were wearing and what the weather was like on that particular day. Another example of the power of the brain is if I asked you to remember something that comes to your memory, say back in your childhood, perhaps at school, right now, you could remember that moment within seconds. Try it now. If I was to tell you that the most modern, sophisticated of today's computers would take up to 24 hours to sift through all that information which is logged in your life memories to come to that point in question that you have just thought of, would you now agree that the human brain is truly amazing? The subconscious versus conscious mind. Conscious thoughts are what you are doing right now. absorbing the information written out before you. Your memory banks are sifting through all the information and storing the files in order of importance for you to draw on at a later date. Consciousness is thought, brought on by an electric current from the brain cell muscle, by way of neurons firing repeatedly along fiber nerves. Brain cells are continually dying, in fact at the rate of millions per day. But don't be alarmed, as there are billions of cells in the human brain and cannot be used up in a person's lifetime. As an analogy, the brain muscle is shaped similar to a half walnut, consisting of a gray matter, enclosed within the hard cranium shell, resting upon hard bony plinths. The workings of the human brain is more complex than any computer ever made. It can absorb thousands of facts in split seconds, take on board life-threatening situations, and help divert blood flow and adrenaline to parts of the body in distress. It is the great main control tower of the human body. My favorite metaphor for the conscious and unconscious minds is a darkened room with all sorts of objects littered about it, the subconscious, and a torch, the conscious, picking out details in the room, able to focus upon only a few things at any one time. Whatever the torch is shining upon will be brightly lit and visible, while the rest of the room is dark. Although the rest of the room is still there, you cannot see it. In the same way, whatever your attention is focused on is uppermost in you consciousness, and the rest of your memories and your wisdom are still there. In one sense, our lives are run mainly by our subconscious minds. We are largely unaware of our autonomic processes and thinking, and yet every single second our subconscious mind receives 2 million messages of sensory awareness. It would be impossible to process all that information consciously, so the subconscious sorts it and presents you with a summary of what is taking place. For example, when you are in a crowded room, your subconscious mind is monitoring all the conversations that are taking place around you. Then, if somebody over the other side of the room says your name, suddenly you hear it. The subconscious mind sorted that piece of information and brought it to your conscious attention. The subconscious can also delete information from our awareness. The subconscious mind is like a computer. It is constantly fed with information, from the day we were born, millions upon millions of facts are being soaked up, just like a sponge, whether we are conscious of this or not. To begin to start a new and wonderful understanding of your potential, and the power you will have over your prospect, a little understanding about psychology is very important. Each school of psychology has its own views from Jung to Freud, but all believe in the common factor of unconscious thoughts that rule our lives, from behavior to mechanical thoughts, and how organism can turn into a series of stimulus response. Every thought or idea causes a physical reaction within a person's body. For example, worry, anger, anxiety, fear, stimulates the adrenal glands, and the increased adrenaline in the bloodstream causes many body changes, which in turn affects your pulse rate. The increased adrenaline causes cholesterol that hardens the arteries. This can contribute to heart problems. On the other hand, feelings of achievement, satisfaction, well-being can trigger off beneficial hormones and opiates, such as endorphins, etc. Conditioned response within the nervous system can therefore be controlled by thoughts within the brain, either good or bad. I will give you an example of an experience I encountered using this psychological tool. Subconscious belief. During my learning years of sales and psychology, I used to experiment with my colleagues, without them knowing my knowledge. On this one occasion, the boss of a company I was working for made it quite clear to me that we weren't getting on. Perhaps he feared his position within the company, as my name was branded about for promotion. To speed up his demise, I casually said to him one morning, "Mr. Williams, are you okay?" "Why?" he exclaimed. "Well," I said, "you don't look too good this morning. You look a bit off color." No sooner had I sown this seed of thought, I watched him go to the restroom, and to my